"Excuse me, sir. In that shirt? You're really here for an interview?" The woman behind the reception desk shifts her gaze between his worn-out shirt and his tired eyes. Chris Gardner gives half a smile, 0.3 as he tries to button the top of his shirt, but it's torn. He says nothing. Just nods. "Yes, I am." His little boy is in his arms, half asleep. His hair is a mess. His diaper has started to smell. But there's no way back, and no time to change it. 10 minutes later. A plain conference room. 3 men in suits sit across from him. One flips through a list of resumes. Looks at Chris, then down at the page. "Which university did you graduate from?" "I didn't." "Any experience in finance?" "No, sir." "Then why do you think you're right for this job?" Chris lowers his gaze to his son. 1 full second of silence. Till looking at the boy, he replies, "Because when I don't know something, I learn fast, because I'll work harder than anyone in this building. And because no one in this room needs this chance more than I do." Silence. The man who hasn't spoken until now finally smiles, just a little. "Are you homeless right now?" Chris looks down. It takes a moment. Then, softly, "Not exactly. We just haven't found our home yet." That night, on the subway floor, in a corner that smells like rust and cold concrete, Chris sits down. His son sleeps across his lap. He leans his head against the wall, and he thinks to himself, "If tomorrow they don't close the door on me again, maybe this won't be just another hard day." That night in the subway, in the same interview clothes, with the same diaper smell, with the same notebook filled with stock numbers, Chris Gardner was still a homeless man. But for the first time, he saw himself as a stockbroker. The subway screeches in. It's 6 a.m. Chris is still sitting on a metal bench. His son's head rests on his lap, half awake, barely blinking. Chris opens his notebook. He reads the last line he wrote the night before. Apple closed at 12.84, next support maybe 12.30? A thought. A number. A target, in a world that didn't care if he ate that day. 7:30 a.m., Dean Witter. 30 floors up, the interns start arriving. None of them have kids in tow. None of them are wearing torn shoes. None of them slept in a train station bathroom. But Chris is there. Smiling. Energized. Like a man with nothing to lose, because he truly has nothing to lose. Standing in the hallway, one of his fellow interns glances over. "You bring your kid here every day?" "No. Just until I find someone to watch it." "Where's that?" "I don't know yet. Still looking." Sales floor. Phones ringing. Everyone hunting for leads. Chris has no list. No decent phone. No reputation, just one thing. The courage to ask. He finds a number. He dials. A beat. He smiles. Then speaks, calm, steady, clear. "Hi, this is Chris Gardner. I'd like to tell you about an investment opportunity. I'll only take 1 minute of your time." To his surprise, 1 minute becomes 2, then 3. Then, click. Call ends. Another rejection. But Chris learns something. Each call, a new lesson. Lunchtime. Everyone else is out. Chris stays. He can't afford lunch. His son sleeps on a chair outside the conference room. Chris grabs the phone. Next number. Next lead. Next hope. That night, same story. Shelter line full, only women and children allowed. Chris calls a church. Begs a social worker, finally, finds space in a rundown chapel. He lays down on a wooden pew. Doesn't complain, doesn't break, because in his mind, tomorrow is a new shot. Tomorrow means one more call, one more client, who might actually listen, might actually trust him, and maybe, just maybe say, "All right, Chris. Let's see what you can do with my money." But what Chris didn't know was, This internship wasn't just a job test. It was a test of who he was. And soon, something would happen. That changed everything. One of the old guys at the firm had a joke: if you survive past call number 100, maybe you belong in this business. Chris was on call number 197. 197 cold calls, 197 people who picked up, listened, and said, "No, thanks." 197 rejections, 197 fake smiles, 197 moments of hope, followed by silence. That morning, just like every morning, he was in the office by 7 a.m. He had left his son with a church volunteer. By 8 a.m., the calls had begun. Call 198 was to a small investment firm on the outskirts of San Francisco. Chris lowered his voice, softened his tone. He reminded himself, "You're not playing with this man's money, you're trying to help him." He dialed. A man picked up. His first words were, "How much of my time are you going to take?" Chris replied, "Less than a minute, but I promise, you'll want to hear more." There was a pause, then the man said, "All right. Go ahead." Chris explained. Calm. Clear. No pressure. He spoke about the market, about how he tracked it, how he saw opportunities in numbers. He didn't say he was homeless, didn't mention the public bathroom nights. He just said, "I'm someone who has more reason than anyone to take care of your money, because if I fail, I don't just lose a job, I lose everything." The man chuckled, then said, "I went bankrupt once, I get what you're saying. You know what? Let's grab lunch. Let me meet you in person." That lunch wasn't formal, but it was an interview, just the same. Chris spoke like himself. About stocks, strategies, and how his mind locked onto numbers like a machine. Later that day, back at the firm, a manager pulled him aside. "Chris, I heard you brought in a lead?" Chris smiled, "Not yet. But there's someone who might open an account next week." The manager nodded. "We're deciding next week who gets to stay, so don't waste time." That night, Chris didn't sleep. He drew a plan. If this client signs, if he can just close 2 deals this week, maybe, just maybe, he'll be one of the 5 out of 10 interns who get hired. That would mean no more shelters, no more borrowed shoes, a beginning, not just for him, for his son. But nothing was certain, because someone else was still grinding through the same call list, breathing just as hard. And tomorrow was decision day. Early morning, as always, he was the first to arrive. The same white shirt, a blue blazer, borrowed from a fellow intern the day before. It didn't quite fit. But it didn't matter. Today was decision day. 10 interns sat in the conference room, everyone dressed sharp, groomed, professional resumes in hand. Chris had just one thing, a short yellow pencil, and a heart pounding in his chest. A manager walked in, no introductions. No warm-up. Just this: "We've made our decision, out of 10 interns, only 1 will be offered a position." Silence. Chris Gardner. It took a moment for Chris to breathe. He could only say, "Sorry. Could you say that again?" The manager smiled. "Yes, Chris. You got the job." There was no applause. No music swelling in the background. Just silence, and a half smile on the face of someone who hadn't really slept in years. That moment, he understood, he wouldn't just be getting paid from today. He wasn't homeless anymore, he was a father, a licensed stockbroker, a winner. That evening, he took his son out for a simple dinner. For the first time, he didn't throw away food from a tray. For the first time, he sat at a dining table. For the first time, he imagined something called a future. Years later, Chris Gardner founded his own firm, Gardner Rich & Company. It managed millions in assets, and Chris became the man he had once seen from a distance. A clean suit, a sleek car, a smile. That came from peace. Not because he had money, but because he no longer had to worry about a roof over his son's head. And if one day, a kid on the street asked him, "What do you do?" Chris would smile and say, "I'm the man who never gave up. And now, I've got one job left, to help people who think they've run out of options." If this story made you pause, even for a second, if it reminded you that there's still a chance, even when everything's against you, then know this: you're not alone. On this channel, we share true stories of people who didn't quit, even when they had every reason to. So if this meant something to you, give it a like. If you know someone who needs to hear it, share it, and in the comments, tell us, who told you you couldn't, and how did you prove them wrong? Subscribe for more stories like this one, and remember, you might just be the next story we tell.